An old sailing saying goes, below 40 degrees latitude, there's no law. Below 50, there's no God. Cape Horn lies at 56 degrees south latitude. The Drake Passage is even lower. Their reputation is so bad that it's hard to imagine a worse one. Today, you'll discover the location of the most powerful ocean current, why sailors were honored to wear an earring in their left ear, and how a private company could oppose entire states. But before we begin, make sure you've subscribed to the channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated with future content. Cape Horn, located on the like-named island, is the southernmost point of the Tierra del Fuego archipelago. There are more than 500 miles from it to Antarctica. Although it is often mistakenly referred to as the southernmost point of the continental landmass of America itself, but this is not exactly true. Such a point is Cape Froward, while Cape Horn is located on an island. The word "on the edge of the world" is just the right term for such points on the planet. Two oceans meet here, the Atlantic and the Pacific, which creates a unique but very treacherous climate for the navigator. The weather on the island tends to be windy and overcast with almost no sun. There are more than 280 rainy days a year. Temperatures range from 28.4 to 57.2 degrees Fahrenheit. The average wind speed is 95 miles per hour. Just to be clear, even the average wind strength on the island is a Category 1 hurricane according to the Saffir-Simpson scale, which is why many call the climate in the Cape Horn area the worst on Earth. However, such harsh places were once permanently inhabited by humans. Since ancient times, the area between Cape Horn and Beagle Channel was the fiefdom of the Yagan Indian tribe. Its last pure-blooded representative, Cristina Calderon, died in February 2022, taking with her a unique language. The Indians traveled by pirogues, hunted sea animals, and fished. Slowly, the people started to disappear, and a major role in this was played by the colonizers. Now there are just over 1,000 mestizos left, who have lost all their Yagan culture and language. Today, Horn Island is the base of the Chilean Navy. There is a lighthouse, chapel, living quarters, and outbuildings. The base is usually overseen by an officer who lives there with his family. Such a deployment usually takes a year, and most of the time the family spends in isolation. It's a great opportunity for sailors to spend time with their families. A trip to the edge of the world with the whole family is a lifetime adventure. The island's inhabitants live in a cottage equipped with everything necessary for a comfortable existence, including the internet. The officer services the lighthouse and weather station, marks passports, and communicates with passing ships. He's also responsible for the small museum where travelers leave their flags. The second important landmark on the island after the museum is the monument in the form of an albatross. It was erected in 1992 and is dedicated to all the sailors who died in the area. The first sailors who conquered Cape Horn were two Dutchmen, Jacob Lemaire and Willem Cornelis Schouten. It occurred in 1616. The Cape was named after the town of Hoorn in Holland, whose citizens sponsored the voyage. The Cape is washed by the waters of the Drake Passage. It is an intercontinental strait, which is more than 600 miles wide. It is the widest of the straits on Earth with its own name. It is also the deepest one, up to 15,700 feet. The strait was named in the early 20th century. During the Imperial Trans-Arctic Expedition, the Anglo-Irish Arctic explorer Ernest Henry Shackleton decided to name it after the legendary navigator Francis Drake. Once it was thought that he passed through the strait in 1578, but modern sources denied this information. As in the case of Cape Horn, the honor of the first passage most likely belongs to members of the Shackleton expedition. The Drake Passage has earned a bad reputation for several reasons. First, there are frequent storms here, considered to be one of the most powerful on the planet with waves up to 50 feet high. Second, the Antarctic circumpolar current, the most powerful in the ocean and the only current on Earth that passes through all the meridians, causes many problems. This current meets no obstacles on its way, such as continents or large islands, while developing a maximum speed of 9 miles per hour in the Drake Passage. If a ship sails from the Atlantic to the Pacific, it faces much more extreme conditions due to the oncoming current and the wind. And third, the southern part of the passage is covered by ice from April to November. That's why icebergs and ice flows are a frequent phenomenon in the summer. But why should we risk going around Cape Horn if at that time Fernando de Magallanes had already discovered a safer strait? The fact is that Europeans were highly interested in the Maluku Islands, which were called the storehouse of spices. At that time, spices cost a lot of money. Yes, you could reach them through the Strait of Magellan and the Cape of Good Hope, except that the first route was considered a Spanish and the second one a Portuguese monopoly. In 1602, the Dutch East India Company, the most powerful private company at the time, monopolized these routes. By 1669, they had 40 warships, 150 commercial ships, 50,000 employees, and an army of 10,000 soldiers. The company was involved in political controversies along with the states. For example, in 1641, it independently, with no help from the Dutch state, knocked out its Portuguese competitors from present-day Indonesia. All in all, it turned out that there was only one way for independent traders with no serious military support to get from the Atlantic to the Pacific, or vice versa. That's why desperate sailors sailed the Drake Passage, rounding Cape Horn, even though they faced the serious risk of losing their lives. Sailing around Cape Horn reached its peak between 1850 and 1914. It was the heyday of seaborne trade. Australian goods sailed to England, tea clippers headed for Europe from India, and gold prospectors crossed from the east coast of the United States to California. This is the time marked by the greatest number of victims. In all, at least 800 ships were lost at Cape Horn, and more than 10,000 sailors died. The life of seafarers became much easier only in 1914. At that time, the passage lost its former importance because the Panama Canal, one of the largest and most complex projects of mankind connecting the Panama Bay of the Pacific Ocean to the Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean, was finished. Thanks to the Panama Canal, it was no longer necessary to circle South America, and the journey was shortened by thousands of miles, causing priceless effects on the development of shipping and the economy around the world. Nowadays, going around Cape Horn and through Drake Passage is a thrill ride for tourists looking for excitement and a serious challenge for travelers who like to sail. Today's expedition ships are equipped with stabilizers, which make the passage through the strait not too much shaking. Despite advanced technology, this route remains dangerous. For example, in 2010, in the middle of the Drake Passage, the liner Clelia II was caught in a severe storm and its engine failed. Fortunately, the liner was rescued and made it to the Argentine port of Ushuaia without any casualties. Still, this and similar stories prove that we may think we are the kings of nature, but in some cases, nature is still capable of causing serious troubles. Excluding sightseeing cruise ships, sailors are the only ones who generate a kind of regular traffic around Cape Horn these days. Such voyages take place as part of competitions or round-the-world voyages. For a yachtsman, crossing the Drake Passage is comparable to the conquest of Everest by mountain climbers. For a reason, it was once believed that sailors who had rounded Cape Horn at least once had the right to wear a ring in their left ear, which was a special sign of bravery. Although the Drake Passage is inhospitable to humans, it has become home to many animals. Travelers who choose to cross it are likely to encounter crossed dolphins and humpback whales, giant petrels, and wandering albatrosses. And Horn Island is home to penguins, seals, and sea lions. In 2005, Cabo de Hornos National Park, which includes Horn Island, was declared a UNESCO Natural Heritage Site. At this point, we get to the end of our video. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon, and give this video a big thumbs up. We're curious to hear your opinion about this video in the comments.